Good morning. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to show you how to put together this tissue box I made and how I decorated it. I used an image by Dies Digis and then put some homemade poinsettias on it, and I did some distressing on the paper. So I hope that you will enjoy how we put this thing together, how it comes together. And it's just one that you can slip over top a regular size tissue box. So here we go. First, these are the panels that make the main surface of the box. And there's the lid. And so you just got to fold all of the fold lines. I like to burnish and fold all the score lines before I get started so that they're ready to go. Very, very simple pattern, but I think it comes together nicely when all is said and done. Make sure that you score at all the score lines, and make sure that the line that cuts the edges of these little tabs at the end are pulled apart, and that everything can fold down easily before you get started on putting the box together. So after everything is all squared away, we're going to start first by showing you how I distressed my paper and how it's all going to come together. So the panels that go on the lid are as follows. I have these little pieces, and I alternated patterns of paper. You can do them all the same color, or you can do them differently. It doesn't really matter, but you will lay those out as such, and then the other ones that come, the alternating color, I just did on opposite ends. Like I said, this is totally up to you how you are going to put your panels on. I liked the alternating colors, so there they are. And once everything's all distressed and stuff, that's how they will all go on top of the lid. So as we get started here, I'm just going to set these things aside, and I am going to show you how I inked and distressed my paper. I use this acetate sheet to do my inking on so that it doesn't get my desk surface with ink on it, and it blends better, and I can pick up some of the ink from the acetate. So that's why I put that acetate sheet down. And then I'm going to start with my darker papers, and I'm going to use this Distress Oxide. The black coal, black soot is the one I use. And I'm just going to go around the edges with my brush and ink it. All right, now I'm going to show you the red pieces that I inked. And for these, I use my red brush, and I use the Lumberjack Plaid Distress Oxide on the piece. And once again, I'm just going to go around the edges of each piece, and on the top of the tissue box, I'll go on the inside. So we will get that going. And here I start inking. One thing I really like about using the acetate for inking is that you can take it and use a baby wipe to wipe off the ink off the acetate, and it's ready to go for the next round. So here I show you, you can see the ink on the plastic, and I just take my baby wipe. I use the alcohol-free ones and just wipe it down, It's gentle on the surface, and they tend to dry faster than like a wet rag, and wipes it all up. I flip it over and I can just set it aside, and within a couple seconds it's dry and ready to go for another round if I need to. So now that I have everything inked, I will show you this section and how I distressed it. So this is a paper distresser. I think this is one I actually got from Cricut. And you just put your paper in through the little notches and you just lightly pull across, and you keep pulling until you get the desired effect. My goal here is just to tatter the edges around the entire surface of the paper and make sure that the entire edges are covered. Distressing here. Everything should be all set, and we will of course clean off my work surface. I wanted to show this specifically. I have this little glitter vacuum. It works great for small pieces of paper like this, and I just turn it on and scoop it over the area and picks the things up. Especially love this for embossing powders and for glitter because it completely cleans my area up, and then I don't have to worry about getting my glue in that project. So now we will start by gluing our surface of the tissue box together. I start with these flat panels that will turn into the box, but I like to lay my layers down first before I glue the actual structure together and just make sure that everything goes. So I'm going to use my Beacon 3-in-1 glue. You see me use this all the time. Love it for doing my layers because it dries real hard. And you don't need a ton of it. It does take a little longer to glue than art glitter glue or Scotch glue or other water-based glues, but it will dry harder. So especially for structures and for fancy fold cards, it just gives it that added layer of stability. And so I just put a little bit of glue all around on there, and you do have some give time to scoot it around to where you want it. So that's what I'm doing now, is just checking, make sure it's centered, and I'll do that with this one as well. So I'm going to glue the panels onto the main piece of the tissue box, and as it these glue on, as I'm gluing this other one, the other one's already drying enough that it won't move around as I glue the rest of it. So here's my second piece, and I'm alternating my colors, my black, my darker paper with my red paper. And then you can see you don't want anything on that tab at the end there, because that's what we're going to use to glue it to the other piece. So here's the second piece. You're going to glue the tab to the non-tab side of the second piece of the tissue box, and then you glue the other tab to the non-tab side of the other tissue box. So once again, I'm going to use my Beacon 3-in-1 to glue these together, because it's going to make that seam a lot more stable than if you use a water-based glue. And so here, I like to, when I do that, I like to rub it nice and hard with my finger, and then open it up if you're able to, and rub the seam from the inside. Just make sure that the glue spreads well as makes contact with every surface of the paper. And then I'm just going to glue the rest of my panels on. I opened it up because I have a tendency to put the wrong thing in the wrong place, and I wanted to make sure that I am doing every other color around the sides of this tissue box, and I could see myself getting confused and putting two red pieces together, which I did not want. I use paper that's non-directional, but obviously if you are making a piece with a directional paper, when you cut this out with your Cricut or Silhouette or whatever machine you're using, just make sure that your paper is the right direction when you cut it. And then you'll want to be careful as you're gluing it on to make sure that you glue things right side up. It doesn't really matter so much on the tissue box, but it could make a difference if you accidentally glue one the wrong way. So here I have my panels on and my long thing put together. So I'm going to fold that last tab over, and I'm going to put my glue on the tab. I'm having a little trouble with my glue here. And putting the glue on the tab, and then all I'm going to do is just fold that panel over, and it's going to make perfect connection right there. And I make sure to burnish it with my finger a little bit, and then I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to flatten it out the other way and flatten that seam a little bit. And here we go with having it all set up as a box. And then I'm just going to collapse it and fold it at all the fold areas, make sure that it is set perfectly, and that all the edges are flat with the surface, and that everything is even. And then I can collapse it, and I can move it over to the side while I put together the lid. So the lid is pretty straightforward. It's just a simple box that we put together. I'm going to put my panels on in the format that I showed you earlier, and make sure that they get nicely glued, these thin pieces, using the Beacon as well, because it's just stronger and it's going to be just that much more sturdy when we put it all together. I like the Beacon 3-in-1 because it does come in different size bottles, and I use my small bottle for things just like this because it makes a nice fine line of glue. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my alternating dark papers on the other sides. And you can see it starting to come together. And I didn't have to do the distressing on these small pieces of paper, but I just thought it added the character. My Christmas theme in my house is kind of more of a rustic cabin type Christmas. And so I thought the distress papers on this looked really well. You don't have to do that. You don't have to distress or ink anything. I just like to go the extra mile, especially for decorative pieces, and give it just a little more rustic look and a little more finished look. So I got my 4 panels on, and now we're just going to put the tissue box topper on. And I did ink in the inside of this topper piece just a little bit as well, to just add a little dark shading to it. And then when I go to put it on, there's just going to be ever so slightly a little border around the inside that the white box is going to show through and kind of frame it. Make sure it's even around the edges, and push down, and make sure your glue makes contacts with all the pieces before you put this in the box. So there's all my panels on, and now I'm just going to put the box together. Very simple, straightforward box making. You're just going to put glue on your tabs at the very corners. And you don't need a ton of glue. This is not water-based, so it's not going to warp your paper, but the more glue you use, the longer it's going to take to dry. So you just fold the tabs in and make sure that it makes contact. I squeeze it with my fingers. If it's a really small tab, I might use like little clothespins to hold them together for a while. And you just go and you put your glue on all 4 tabs. You can take scissors and cut the tabs down a little bit so they're less likely to show through, but I like them to be full so that they may have more place to make contact with the paper. And you can see that my one tab came undone there, but this beacon takes slow enough to glue that just going back and pushing it back together was enough for it to remake contact and not ruin the structural integrity. So here is my 3rd corner, just going through, and I'm pushing up against the other corners I've already glued down against the table. It just gives them a little more pressure. Oh, and see, there goes my glue again. Just gonna push that back together. It's still working on the curing. It takes probably about 30 seconds for it to completely cure to the paper, and then probably a full 6 hours to completely dry hard. But after that first 30 seconds, the glue sticks well enough that you can continue to work with it and do it. So there's my lid, and you can leave this where it can come apart, but I like to glue it on because you just slip this tissue box cover over the tissue box from the bottom, and you glue the lid on, and then it's just one big piece that you don't have to worry about losing pieces off of. So I'm going to just put some of my Beacon 3-in-1 on the inside lip of this tissue box topper. And like I said, you don't have to use a ton of glue, but don't be afraid to get a little liberal with it, especially here, because you're not going to be able to flatten this out once this is on. So you want to make sure that the glue is making contact with the paper. So use a little bit of liberal glue. I move this around a little bit because I want the dark paper edges touching the red paper sides, just giving it a little more visual interest. And then I'm going through and I'm putting my hand in and I'm pushing up against the edges there so that the glue is making contact with the paper that I'm trying to stick it to. And when you do that, you can see that it's flattening out and making contact. When it dries, it'll be nice and sturdy and hard, and there you have it. There's the box put together. And I have the alternating sides so that you see both colors of paper on whatever side you're looking at, and then my top is good to go. So now I'm going to start decorating. This is an image I got from Dies Digis. I am actually on her design team for this, and I made this box for the challenge, anything but a card. So I wanted to feature this image on the front side of my box and then complement it with some poinsettias. So you'll see how I decorate now. There you have it. Here is my finished tissue box. It will fit over a Kleenex brand box, and it will be a nice addition to your Christmas pieces with my poinsettias, the image, and this beautiful top piece. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for watching my videos. Make sure to click like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Have a great day.